I'd like to welcome everybody to another episode of HBCU Coaches Corner. I'm Rocky Miller, your host, along with my co-host, Mr. Stephen Campbell. Our featured host, Mr. Johnnie Cole, is going to arrive late. He has something that he had previously scheduled, so it's not a surprise to us that Coach Cole is running behind because we knew that. And we're going to have this is a rattler edition of HBCU Coaches Corner. We're going to have the 20th head coach of FAMU, which is Coach FAMU legend Quinn Gray,
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, they say put that HOF behind that name, brother.
Hall of Famer. And so, Steve, before we get started, you know, on the show tonight, I got to ask you, man, how you doing, Steve? It's been a while since we did one of these, man.
Hey, man, listen, I'm excited. It's 2026. Spring football has started. We're getting ready to get into the conference tournaments, man. Basketball has been great on both the men's and women's side, on all levels of HBCU, man. We've been doing Sipping on Sundays. Appreciate everybody, you know, rocking with us on the Rocky Miller channel and the Off Script channel, man. That's been awesome, which ties right into this show. So, man, hey, man, I'm great, man. Listen, I'm great. I'm excited. I've got a major announcement to make, you know, on FAMU's behalf, well, social media behalf, jokingly. But, man, I'm excited, man. And you listen, man, we got Quinn Gray, FAMU's head football coach. And I'm super excited. And we got another person that's going to join, too, that is part of my FAMU family. Because, man, listen, man, the business don't stop. The business does not stop.
And I also like to add, we've had added another sensational show on the Off Script channel as well as the Rocky Miller channel. You guys did a show last night, Sipping on Sundays, which usually airs at 8 p.m. on Sundays. But last Sunday, you guys had a schedule change, so you made it up to the public. It came on last night, and you guys had a very interesting conversation. Something I want to touch on before we get into the show. Hey, and if anybody in the chat has something they want to discuss as we open up the show, you're welcome to put the information in. But what I wanted to touch on, you guys really did a really in-depth dive on the Michael Vick documentary. First off, I want to say it was a riveting documentary, meaning that I got into it and I really enjoyed seeing how the sausage is made, so to speak, and watching Michael Vick have a very rough first season. I got the impression, Mr. Campbell, that more than anything, what I got out of that documentary was Michael Vick, a guy who had never coached before, was truly learning on the job. And because he was learning on the job, he was dealt with situation after situation that in a lot of cases, I just think he made the wrong decision. You know what I mean? When it to Otto, there's a number of things. But what I want to ask you, Mr. Campbell, is do you think it's a good look to see a guy like Mike Vick kind of learn and struggle at his job? I know it's riveting television, right?
Right.
What does it say about the HBCU football overall to see that you hire a guy that's probably one of the highest paid coaches in HBCU football, probably in FCS football, and he struggled mightily while he was on the job? Like, what does that say about the product? What you know, kind of what is that? Does that say anything about HBCU football at all?
Well, no, because what it says about Norfolk State's program, because we kind of talked about this, and Zoe and I talked about coaches that was in that situation. We talked about a TC Taylor, who, of course, a lot of players left, coaches left, and basically the only two men left standing was TC Taylor and Coach O. And you saw how they were able to bring in a great recruiting class, have a positive season, and then a year later, HBCU national champions. You see Coach Tremaine Jackson coaching the national championship, basically get rid of pretty much 75, 80% of the team, bringing 70 new players, and they play for HBCU national championship. You had Deshaun Jackson that comes all the way from the West Coast, never has coached, brings Travis Clark with him, but puts together a tremendous staff that he felt positive. Coaches that he didn't know, I want to be very clear, but had heard great things about, like Nemo Williams, and played the last game of the season for a MEAC championship. So what this says is each individual situation is its own entity in itself. And I think what we're learning, and I want to give Michael Vick a lot of credit, because when you do those things, you never know how it's going to turn out. And what I will say, it is very obvious, he loves his players. And I think the coaches that he brought, that he had some understand that he trusts them, which I totally understand. And I think just looking at it, he wants the best for Norfolk State. But what I think, what we found out, coaching ain't easy, man. Coaching is not easy. And Coach Quinn Gray is probably going to talk about the heavy lift he's got to do at FAMU, because there are a lot of things that he has to heavy lift at FAMU that we all know about. It's no secret. So to watch it, what I found fascinating was you hear all the great coaches, and what's the first building block of a championship team? Discipline. And I think what he realized, and I think this is even when you're a new parent or you become a boss in a new job, you have to fill out what your style is of management, because he is a manager of people. And you have to feel like, do they need to be, because these are kids and they're younger. So I think what he's realizing, he's got to be more stern. He has to be more upfront. And I think what he was doing, he was trusting the kids a little bit too much. I think some of the kids he had an affinity for, like Izzy Carter, that he really wants to succeed. But I think sometimes, and I think what he's learning, and I think as you see it go along, because he replaced some coaches, and I think some things are changing, is that you got to coach. You got to coach. And the first thing, the foundation, has got to be a level of discipline, and the standard is the standard. And we've seen that when we saw the Coach Prime document. Hey, you got to make sure you have your socks a certain height, same colors, things like that, be on time, things like that. I'm already hearing the same thing about Coach Gray. Coach Gray is already, which again, not to get too far, making some positive announcements about things that we were lacking at already that he's making out. So that lets me know that he has already accepted a challenge of things that he said was going to be a challenge. So I think for Michael Vick, and what you're going to see is, and I'm going to tell you that I don't think this thing was as tightly edited as the Coach Prime documentary. Because Coach Prime documentary was clean as tide. This one right here, boy, got a little mud on it.
Well, again, that's what I appreciated about Ms. Campbell is that it did show how the sauce. This was not a propaganda piece.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, sir.
This was a piece that was filled with drama, and I think there was a level of authenticity to it that you generally don't get from coaches. Michael Vick and Marcus Vick, I think, did an amazing job of talking about the struggles that they were having with the decisions that they were making, especially at quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what they were dealing with. And then Marcus, in some cases, challenged, and I think being his brother gives him a certain leeway that maybe other coaches don't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he literally challenged Mike Vick's decision making on camera about, hey, you have an affinity for this guy, and I think that's clouding his judgment. I'm wondering, would a quarterback coach, would an offensive coordinator say that if he were not Mike Vick's brother?
No. And that's the thing about it. And see, this is where you got to have people, when you're building a staff, people that's going to be honest with you. That's going to say, hey, coach, let me give you some idea. And I think that's the reason why Travis Clark is so great with Deshaun Jackson. Because as Deshaun's the head coach, Travis Clark has this tremendous experience. And they can close the doors and say, all right, coach, this is what I saw on the field. Here's how I think you need to approach that going forward. You got to have that mentor. And again, like I said, I'm super excited because, especially the way Coach Gray has put together, because he's got every level. He's got young guys that he's about to build up. He's got Billy Roll, a legend, you know what I mean, that has had this experience. So, man, I think for Mike, Coach Vic, I think this is one of those things that, man, you really just learn on the job, and you're going to find, I think they're going to be much better in year 2. Because as you see, and he said it, there were games they should have won. There were games, so it wasn't like they were getting blown out 35, 40, 45 points. It was things that, again, as all coaches know, you learn. They were young. There was some, and I think the biggest thing I think he realized, he should have had Otto playing right off the rip.
The two things that impressed me with the documentary, and then we'll move on, and because we got a huge guest tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Two things that impressed me was, and I'll give Mike Vick credit, he never really lost hope in his team. He believed in his team, and he coached them in an inspired way, even though they weren't getting the results he wanted. The other thing that really impressed me is the Norfolk fan base, in the middle of a horrible season, kept showing up. Did that impress you?
That did, because that's what I think, again, I've met Michael Vick, like I told you, done events with him, know a lot of people were in his circle, and he's a good person, bro. I think this is one of those things that, talking to Dion, looking at the opportunities, and I think and again, what he's gone through in his life, I think Michael Vick has something to give to young people, because he was a superstar that went at a supernova, hit rock bottom, and now has redeemed himself to become a football coach. That is a lot to give young men and women and people that are involved in that staff, to show the level of being able to overcome objectives in difficult situations.
All right, man. Hey, we got a really special show tonight, man. We have a legendary rattler and head coach that we're gonna bring on, and we have some other special announcements, Steve. And I'll step aside and let you handle the business.
Hey, man, listen. This is Tuesday night on HBCU Coaches Corner. But this is this is a Rattler takeover. So all you other schools, I want you to listen to this interview and listen to how we do it, so maybe you can copy us. But I am proud to introduce the head coach of Florida A&M University, MEAC Hall of Famer, FAMU Hall of Famer, HBCU National Champion, and the 20th head coach of the Florida A&M Rattlers. And I want to say the whole full name, want to make sure, because that name means something to him. Head coach Quinn Gray Sr.
How you doing over here?
What's going on, coach?
A great day's work, man, and just getting to the house and able to relax a little bit. But, I'm excited about being on with you guys.
Well, Coach, listen, I'm going to say this, as like I told you, this is the most watched HBCU coaches show on all the social media. You are a person that people want to hear. You blessed us. Before you got the job, I said, Coach, we need you to come on, because I think some good things are going to happen in the future. Rocky, let me tell you something. This brother right here, this is a young brother, but he's a smooth brother. Rocky, let me tell you, I met this brother. Brother pulled up in a motorcycle. Okay? Brother had a nice motorcycle, came and checked out his rattlers. Coach, did y'all have a game early that day?
Yeah, we played at 1, and I think, Fan, you played at 7.
Played at 7. Coach got on his motorcycle to come support his rattlers. And this is a true rattler. Had the pleasure of meeting. I'm so happy. But, Coach, let me tell you something. I got to start this off. Now, Coach, I know you're busy. I know you ain't one of them people all on social media other than doing business, right? But, Coach, as you know, now you're a rattler. And there's a lot of stuff been going on at FAMU for the last couple of years, unfortunately. And, Coach, that was a term that was kind of being used. Anytime something happened at FAMU, it was called FAMU foolishness, Coach. I mean, unfortunately, every time we was on the wrong side of the business.
Right.
But, Coach, let me tell you something. I'm a person of history. I started tracking something. Now, you were officially announced the coach on December 23rd, 2025.
Right.
That has been 70 days. And, Coach, you know what? I have determined, and I'm going to show you something, Coach. You're going to be surprised about that. I have determined something that you're going to be pretty impressed with. Pull this up right here. Coach, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
We have had 70 days, Coach, without no foolishness. Coach, we ain't been in the news. We ain't had to get on social media. We ain't had to say what happened. We ain't had to have these prayer meetings.
Right.
We ain't had to post in the 220 club asking you crazy questions.
Right. So,
Coach, I'm just going to tell you, your positive vibe has already started. So we have not had 70 days of, as I like to say, gray skies. Of gray skies. So, Coach, I want to tell you, for me, who's somebody that's in this media space, and Coach, that was anytime something happened at FAMU, I would get tagged by every school, every person. But Coach, this says a lot about what I believe people at FAMU believe who and what you are and the things you do. Now, Coach, this 70 days of gray skies also has led into something else, Coach, that I think is important. Coach, we had something that was called Restore the Strike.
Right.
And Coach, I saw them nice shirts that you had, so you got to get your boy one.
Oh, yeah.
But Coach, the thing about Restore the Strike, Coach, and I'm going to bring on somebody special to talk about this that even knows more about it. Coach, do you realize, and I'm just going to show this, and then we're going to bring this down because we're going to bring this back. Because of Coach who and what you are, Coach, we have raised, since you got announced, $327,640.
Yeah.
Coach, that's Restoring the Strike right there.
That's right.
And so,
to be honest,
go ahead, Coach.
That's just the level, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, to be honest with you, man. Because if you look down there, you're talking about $327,000 with only 894 donors. You're talking about FAMU has over 80,000 living alumni, right? So you're talking about, you ain't even talking about the tip of the iceberg. I think just the excitement around the coaching staff, myself, and just what the fan base needs in terms of a shot in the arm, right? Because whatever over the last couple of years or whatever has taken place, you know, our fan base has just been looking for something to hang on to and to cheer for. So, you know, the excitement around, you know, myself coming back home and the opportunity to lead this group of young men, and then just to be at my alma mater, man, has been tremendous so far. And I've been hitting the ground running, to be honest with you. There really hasn't been a week where I haven't been on the road trying to make sure that we're talking to different alumni associations and being at different clinics. We just spoke at the Orlando Nike Coach of the Year clinic, talking to the high school coaches, making sure they understand the importance of the roles that they still play despite the transfer portal and all that good stuff. And then just having the opportunity this upcoming week to go down to Melbourne and talk with some regional national alumni folks that will have a roundtable this upcoming weekend. So, you know, I'm excited about where we're headed, you know, and then just the participation and some of the things that we'll be able to do with the donations, because at the end of the day, we didn't have any goalposts on the practice field. We got goalposts ordered with some of the donation money to get the goalposts on the practice field, so our field goal kickers, extra point field goal kickers, can have what they need and not have to go in the stadium to work on those things. So for us, man, we're gonna do right by folks that decided that they want to make sure we have what we need in terms of getting ourselves where we're trying to go from a production and then also from a preparation standpoint. So we're going to do what it is that we need to do the right way and make sure people, and we're going to be very transparent with what we utilize this money for. And we're going to make sure that people realize and understand what we're doing with it, so they'll know that their dollars aren't going to a black hole or going somewhere that it ain't supposed to go.
Now, Coach, I'm going to say this. The person that brought this great idea to you is somebody that is dear to me, is my freshman brother. We've known each other since we was 18 years old.
That's right.
Marvin Green, major gift officer for athletics and the Marching 100. So, Coach, listen, me and Marvin talked. This thing is still alive, Coach. And Marvin told me, he said, Brother Campbell, we got to get this at least to 1,000. So I'm going to bring Marvin on, because I said, Marvin, I want you got to explain to me how in the world that, in your opinion, that Coach Gray, because of who he was, that we were able to raise $327,000. So I'm bringing my classmate to the stage. My guy, Chicago's finest, Marvin Green Jr. Brother Marvin, what's going on, brother?
What's going on, Steve? What's going on, Coach? How you doing, man?
And I ain't seen you in a couple of days.
Brother. I'm out there grinding, man.
I already know. When I don't see Marvin, I know he working, man. That's what it is. That's what it's been for the last 2 months since I walked on campus. He's been working, man.
Appreciate you.
Marvin, I want to talk to you because, one of the things when, me and you were texting back and we kind of knew in advance that Coach Gray was going to be the man. And Marvin, you came up with this great idea. But Marvin, great ideas are only executed if people believe in the idea and the program and the mission. But I want you to really talk about why this coach, why this man right here, who again, 70 days of no FAMU fools, you were able to put together a program that, Marvin, this is legendary. Because we got people out there, they're trying to raise millions, hundreds of thousands, and this FAMU community, and Coach said, we ain't even scratching the surface, has raised $327,000+. So I want you to really talk about who Coach Gray is, why do you think this was, and where do we need to go, and how we going to get these additional people to get in there?
Well, man, I'll be quick, man, because I definitely know that you got a lot to talk to Coach Gray about, and it's important to hear what his vision is for our program and where FAMU is going. But really, man, I'm really one guy who just helped put together a lot of good people who had great intentions. A lot of times, we have various groups, our Rattler Boosters, Rattler F Club, 220 Club, Rattler in Arms. We have fraternity organizations, sororities as well, who wanted to just welcome Coach Gray home the right way. So when you talk about having a change in leadership, we had a change obviously in football leadership. And then we started hearing the rumor mill about who was coming home. And once it became clear that it was Coach Gray, we wanted to make sure that Coach Gray got off to a great start, right? You don't want to have anybody coming in limping, so to speak. And so really what happened was I started having a couple of people from those organizations, the Boosters, 220, Rattler F Club, Rattler in Arms, etc., saying, Marvin, we got to make sure that Quinn comes in, Coach Gray comes in on solid ground. And that's really what got it going. The thing was, they had this idea 2 days before Christmas. To me, I think that's what says what made Rattler Nation special, was because they said even when people are on the road, on vacation, other priorities, trying to buy kids gifts and all those things that we're doing during the holidays, they said we got to make sure we get this foundation in place. And really that's what took off. But the other piece about it is we had a deadline of the first phase, which was January 31st. We had a dollar amount we wanted to get to. And those two things create a sense of urgency. We just want to just have something out there saying we want to raise money, right? Everybody wants to raise money, but you got to have a deadline. You got to put a dollar amount on it. But then it was knowing that we still want to do more. Coach Gray is going to need more, and our other coaches as well. Our athletic department as a whole needs more. And so I want to be clear about that. And I think Coach Gray hit it on the head. We write about 900 people. The first goal was to get at least 1,000 people involved in this campaign, because when 1,000 people go back and tell 3 or 4 people, now you get to 3,000, 4,000, right? And that's the key about it. Everybody talks about the 70,000 alums, the 80,000 alums, as Coach Gray said, but we have to know that there's always going to be the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the people do 80% of the work. And so I think our goal is how do we get to that 20% of Rattlers who say that they committed, who said that they want to see the team win, who said that they want to make sure that Coach Gray has what he has, so that when you're bragging in the stance, we use that term brag different. Well, brag different means you have to brag with your purse strings as well. And so that's really what this thing is about, man. Like I said, I just happen to be in a position. Obviously, I know people. I've been around for a while. So when you've been around 30 years, you know a few people who you can call. And then once those people believe in what you're doing, Coach Gray said it as well. We're being transparent with the money. He's going to tell you what he's doing with it. He got some things that he wants to get done ASAP, and then he got some things that are bigger projects that we need to even continue to kind of put the pedal to the metal on as well. So I appreciate you for having me, man. All I want to say is restore the strike was Coach Gray's, he called it his slogan. So it's a mantra slogan to restore the strike. But I want to let you all know his core values are on all in. All in is all about those core values that he had: attitude, the little things, the love, intelligence, and doing it now. So, Coach, I want you to know, man, I've been listening to you, bro. We all in with Quinn. Thanks for having me, brother.
That's it, man. And Marvin is obviously, man, kudos to Marvin, because he brought this idea to me. And he as soon as we, everything was announced, we hit the ground running. Hey, Coach, What do you want this thing to look like? What do you want to call it? How do you want it? When all of this stuff started going in motion, man, I knew for a fact it was about the strike and being a rattler. And what was it that we need? We need to restore the strike, because a lot of people feel like FAMU ain't where they once were. So we need to restore the strike so we can continue to and make sure that we're continuing to make sure that we envenenating people, if that's a word, right?
we gonna make it a word. We gonna hashtag that tonight.
That's right. We envenenating people, right? Making sure so that people understand that the venom from the strike is now about to be restored when we do bite, right? And that's what it's truly all about, man. And it's not just about, again, like Marvin said, it's about the athletic department. But when it comes down to it, man, the Restore the Strike campaign has been tremendous. And obviously phase 2 of this thing is underway with the next $250,000, so we can try and make sure that those lights and the tower for our film and all that good stuff gets put up for our practices and things of that magnitude. And then ultimately, man, we want to make sure that the bigger picture is trying to get a building that we can all make sure that we're proud of, and our kids can walk in and be proud of. Because right now we struggle with meeting room, right? We don't meeting space that we need and things of that magnitude. And there's several other things that we can talk about that we can talk until we blue in the face. But at the end of the day, it's going to take a pretty penny to try and get those things done. And we're going to rely on Rattler Nation, and then also hopefully some things from the state that'll help us get to that point where we're getting the buildings that we need.
Marvin, Steve, I want to say one thing before I get out of here. This thing was so important, man, that it galvanized all Rattlers from all walks of life. Our current president, our past president, several of our past presidents, they all pitched in as well. Coach Gray, he actually had his name on the ticket. So to say that he's invested in the program, I think it speaks volume. Board of trustee members as well, right? So people were really behind this thing, and they continue to be behind it. But I think that's the importance of it, that it's the high and the low. It's all the way from the BOT all the way to somebody who's sweeping hallways, because guess what? That's what it takes to have solid programs, and we know that.
Hey, Marvin, one thing before I let you go, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this, because, again, you're doing personal donations, but, Marvin, you are the major gift officer. So if we have people that are alums, because, again, supporting FAMU, again, if you are part of a corporation like Coca-Cola, or Apple, or a person like that, Marvin, these donations, they're tax deductible even on the corporate side, correct? If they want to make $1 million donation, they will contact you and things like that, get the stadium named or something like that.
Yes, sir. We have all those conversations. Marvin.green.jr@famu.edu. All of the gifts that go to the University Foundation gets a tax deduction. So you're right about that. We're giving to the FAMU Foundation. The football team has an account there. Of course, the athletic department has an account there as well. And because you're going through the foundation, which our vice president is Dr. Brandy Tatum Frederick, I need to make sure I give her a shout out, and our VP of athletics, John Davis as well. So those individuals are putting together the visions. They're the ones who kind of run things from the top. And all we're doing is hitting the ground running, make sure we're shaking all the trees, getting people involved as much as we can. So Marvin.greenjr, GREENJR@famu.edu. Let's talk about it. All right, I'm gonna let y'all go, man. I know y'all got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, he is the major gift officer for band and athletics, Marvin Green Jr., my freshman '88 brother. Coach, listen, I appreciate you, but I think this is so important because the level of enthusiasm that you have brought. And Coach, I do want you to talk about, because I'm gonna let Rocky get in here, but you talked about this money that's being raised, and you got talk about, like you said, Coach, what you came and you saw, because we talked a little bit. I don't know, Coach, you were talking about Michael Vick, and like, Coach, this job ain't easy when you're coaching at the HBCU.
Right.
And I don't want people to think that because you came in here and because of who and what you are, that you're making it look easy. It's a heavy lift. So, Coach, talk a little bit about, of course, because, again, as you can, when you observe some of the things we need and you say, you know what, I can use the money for this, this, and this. And what are some of your bigger goals that say, hey, when we get to phase 2 and 3 and these corporate sponsors that, yeah, we're looking for 10 corporate sponsors that to do $250,000 a piece. You know what I mean? To get to the bigger level. Because I really think people need to understand where, like you said, what you're seeing from where you played, where it's still the same, but where we need to go, where excellence is where it should be at.
Well, what I do know, man, is, for where college football is, there needs to be an opportunity to be able to fund and to be able to make sure that these players are compensated for what they do, right? Obviously, with the collectives and things of that magnitude, there has to be an opportunity to be able to make sure that we're able to give these players some resources, because at the end of the day, a lot of these players, man, believe it or not, they're not begging and asking for outlandish things, cars and jewelry and all this good stuff. A lot of these kids are just asking for the opportunity to take their girlfriends out on a date every weekend. You know what I mean? So to be able to help them do those things that are, to me, that are life things, you know, is vital, to be honest with you. So for us to be able to help in the money with the collective, and then, you know, be able to have that rev share for our student athletes is tremendous. So gone are the days of not being able to compensate these players and do what we need to do to help them just live normal lives are gone, to be honest with you. So for me to come in the door and just realize and see the things that when I left as a player, and some of the things are still the same, you know, that to me is where we are from a FAMU standpoint and who we say we are as FAMUans. You know, I think it's totally absurd, to be honest with you, if for a lack of better term, because there's a lot of schools that, in my opinion, that were below where FAMU was at one point, that have taken the necessary steps to get themselves where they are. And just to name a few, let's just talk about it, right?
Let's talk about, Coach.
Talking about FIU, right? You're talking about a school that had just started football, and FAMU had been playing football for several years. They've done what they've needed to do, and they've become a FBS, group of five FBS school. FAU, same thing. Central Florida, same thing. South Florida, same thing. You know, all of these schools, in my opinion, where had we, or if we are able to do things the right way, we could be exactly where these folks are. But we are where we are, right? So we're not going to cry over spilled milk. So for us, it's about continuing to make sure that we're steering the boat in the right direction and making sure that we're doing and putting our best foot forward to make FAMU the best that it could possibly be. And for me, you know, just getting the resources to be able to do that and have just the minimum is what we're talking about. You know, lights for us to be able to practice in the morning on the practice field. You know what I mean? A tower for us to be able to film practice, things of that magnitude. A storage area for us to be able to store our equipment on the practice field where it ain't getting rained on when it does rain, that we can put it up and store it and things of that magnitude. So you're talking about things that are just minimal things to run a collegiate athletic department and a collegiate program from a football standpoint. So for me, man, this Restore the Strike campaign has been tremendous for myself and the program. And we're going to do right and make sure that we're doing what it is that we need to do to put our kids in the best situations to be successful with the equipment that they need from a practice standpoint, and then also just from a technology standpoint, because we're talking about gone are the days where you hand out paper playbooks and three ring binders and things of that magnitude. So we're talking about having iPads for our kids and things like that. So, you know, all of this stuff is on the table, but we want to make sure that we're hitting and grabbing that low hanging fruit that we can go ahead and grab versus those things that are a little bit higher in the tree, like a facility, right? We understand that we need a facility. We've been in the same facility since 1982. You know what I mean? And we got couple buckets in the locker room that catch water from the ceiling. But at the end of the day, we're gonna make it do what it do until we're able to get that building that we need. And the fact that these kids are still coming to each and every day and sitting in the locker room for our team meetings and things like that and continuing to fight for this university says a lot for them. So to me, we owe it to these new generation of Rattlers to make sure that we give them the opportunity to see better as we move forward at FAMU.
Coach, that's amazing. And I'm going to tell you this, and me and Marvin talk, and I'm going to say this to, hey, listen, Rattlers, we got some people that are directors, there's some vice president at Home Depot, at Lowe's. Hey, man, listen, y'all around there sponsor ESPN, have them folks from Home Depot, that North Florida area, come to Coach Shed, come on, Home Depot. You put your Home Depot sign behind Coach and do a beautiful interview, a commercial for you, and put that FAMU logo on it. So Home Depot, so Coach, those are things that I think, again, like you say, the 80,000 alumni. Again, we don't have regular alumni, Coach. Right. We got top tier alumni. So that's the reason why I want you to come on there, because this is a big amplification, because people are going to watch this and say, man, oh man, I didn't even think about that. I work at Home Depot. Let me call Marvin and see if we can at least get Coach a share. And like you say, each one's a building block to that greatness that I know you're going to bring us back. As you say, restore that strike. So Coach, I wanted to get that out the way. Now we're getting ready to talk some football, because Rocky about that football, you know what I mean? But I had to do, I had to get the FAMU out the way, you know what I'm saying, for you and for my man Marvin. So Rocky, listen, now you come on in, and now, but tread carefully now.
Now,
like I say,
I appreciated Coach Gray. I didn't know you. I didn't know much about you, Coach Gray, until you came on our show a few months ago while you were involved in the NCAA Division II playoffs. You came on our show and you did something I thought was very authentic, right? While holding the job at Albany State, I asked you a gotcha question about your interest in being the FAMU head coach. And in that moment, you could have danced around it and said, hey, I'm focused on what I'm doing or whatever, which you did say that, but you also said you were candid about your interest in taking on that challenge. And you spoke candidly about it, and it was probably the most riveting part of our 1 hour interview, is that you said that it's a job that you wanted and that you coveted. So I take credit for unveiling the fact that you definitely wanted that job, right? But Coach, now that you're sitting in that seat, right, what is the most important aspect of being in charge of the FAMU football program to you?
I think really, man, is to really get the kids that are in the program now, the kids that are coming, really to help them understand the history, the foundation that was built before they got there. To be honest with you, man, the first meeting that we had, the first team meeting that we had, man, I asked, the players about one particular FAMUan that does radio, and nobody could answer the question. Who is this guy? Who is that guy? I was talking about none other than Albert Chester. And when it came down to Albert Chester travels with the team every week to do radio. They couldn't tell me who Albert Chester was, right? So what I do each and every week on Tuesdays, I start our team meetings with who's who of FAMU football, right? Last week we started with the man himself, right? Coach Jake Gaither, right? Alonzo Jake Gaither. We started with him. This past week we went with Coach Rudy Hubbard, right? Next week we'll have another FAMU foundation builder from a coach standpoint or a player, right? So these kids understand who and what are the reason that they sit where they sit. Now, mind you, they may sit in the same seats that some of these older folks may have sat in too, but at the day, they need to know their history, right? They're going to know the alma mater, because we're going to stand in front of that band, win, lose, or draw, and make sure that we give respect to the university and sing our alma mater like we know we're supposed to, right? We're going to say our war cry every time we bring it up after practice. We wounded them. They fall to our feet. They shall not rise. They're going to know that, right? But for me, the most important piece to this thing, man, is making sure that we get these kids to understand the foundation that was laid before them, and they play with the pride that FAMU deserves, because this university has done so much for so many people, and it's doing so much for these young people in the program now, that they need to understand that the orange and green that they wear, it carries more weight than they probably know about until they leave and come back and understand how much weight this orange and green actually weighs when it comes down to it. So for me, man, to be in this seat, it's truly a blessing. It's truly an honor. because at the end of the day, I'm sitting in the seat that my coach, that I looked up to, Coach Billy Joe, sat in. I'm talking about the very same office that he coached me in, and when I go in that office every day, man, I have no choice but to think about some of the things that he would impart to some of us as his players and things of that magnitude. So, man, for me, it's a blessing and it's truly a dream come true.
You know, Coach, as you were talking about those great FAMUans, my favorite, all-time favorite FAMUan, I came in contact with, I learned to know who he was as a very young man. And he was Bullet Bob Hayes. And I was so looking forward, you know, me and Steve took a long drive down to FAMU from Atlanta during the SWAC championship, and I want to say 2023. And I was hoping to see a monument to Bullet Bob Hayes. And I did see him recognized, and I did see his, you know, him be recognized. But when I look at it, I'm saying with such a rich history and knowing that he was a gold medal winner, he was a All-Pro, an NFL Hall of Famer, and then also to be taught, you know, on that drive, Steve also taught me other history about FAMU. It's my opinion that that's one of the most compelling things about FAMU and its athletics is that the men who have played and who have coached at that program and that sometimes their names are more well known and than the university is at times. Like, but to me, Bob Hayes is a all-time great in track and all-time great in football, but it's not. But it seems to me that those two brands, Bullet Bob Hayes and FAMU, is not always tied together.
Right.
It should. Is there anything that you see in the future to where you could kind of bind those, not just Bob Hayes, but there are many great men who went on to do great things with FAMU. Is there any way we can make a visible tie to the program and those great players? Any vision that you have for doing that? Because I think that's important, that it's very prominent, not only to the players, but a guy like me, someone who walks through the facility, that I understand that these are FAMU men.
No, absolutely, man. I think for us and myself, some of the branding things and ideas that I have for our building really incorporates that. You know what I mean? You're talking about, as you speak about Bullet Bob Hayes, you're talking about the guy who made defenses create cover two, right? You're talking about the only human alive that won a gold medal in the Super Bowl in his lifetime, right? So to have these type of people to come through and these same walls that we are currently in, and to not honor those folks, you know, I think personally, I think we do need to do a better job of making sure that we recognize and honor these folks in different ways that different universities have done in such a way, like South Carolina, right? It has a statue out of their arena at the University of South Carolina, right? We've had several people to come through our walls, say the football, hey, the Coach Jake. Now Coach Gaither does have a statue in front of Gaither Gymnasium and things of that magnitude, but to be able to honor our greats like Bullet Bob and Albert Chester and Greg Coleman and, you know, Nate Newton. There's so many names, man, that are synonymous with FAMU that to try and honor everybody in such a way would take years, to be honest with you. But for myself, you know, with a lot of the branding that we have going on in and around the building, we definitely will highlight a lot of the guys that are foundation builders of FAMU football and then FAMU athletics, because, you know, as rich as FAMU football is, you know, you still got other sports that have, you got the Clement Johnsons, you got the Althea Gibsons, you got, you know, the Natalie Whites and things of that magnitude. So you got so many people that have walked the hallways of FAMU from an athletic standpoint that, you know, we have a duty to make sure that we recognize and make sure that the younger generation and the newer generation understand the people that have come before them, so they'll know who and how they've gotten to where they are in terms of FAMU.
You know, one of the things I did understand while I had a visit and got a chance to meet Willie, Coach Simmons, and some of the other esteemed alumni there at FAMU. Like no other place I can truly say I've ever been. Those people love FAMU.
Man, they call us. I heard somebody call us a cult one day, man.
They love FAMU.
Listen, and I mean to cut you off, but it's a different feeling, man. Like I know Jacksonians love their school, Alkanites love their school, but it's different, man. Being a FAMU, right, man? That when that orange is bright and that green is tighter, man, it's different, right? And it's just something about the orange and green and being able to represent this university, man, because this university has done so much for so many people, man, that, you know, to say that a lot of us owe FAMU and we'd never be able to repay what FAMU gave to us is just an understatement, right? Because at the end of the day, as I said, we're called a cult a lot of times, and I'm proud to say I'm a part of that cult, right? Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't have had it any other way. Now that the fact that I did choose to attend FAMU, man, I don't think I would have ever been able to understand anything differently than what I chose to do, and that's to go to FAMU, man. So to be a part of this cult has truly been life-changing, man, because over the years you meet so many different people in different aspects of life that are FAMUans. You're talking about executives, you're talking about athletics, you're talking about entrepreneurs, you're talking about generals and things like that in the military. There's FAMUans are everywhere, right? So there's not a place in this world that you can go that you're not going to run into a FAMU. I ran it when I was over playing in Germany back in 2003. I ran into a couple of FAMUans that were over there serving in the military. So to say that everywhere you go, you probably going to run into a FAMU is an understatement.
You know, again, how this relates to my next question is that being that you are a FAMU, you know how important having a successful football team is to the FAMU people, right? The one thing that I was surprised to learn is that FAMU is, in recent history, FAMU has come, they've had some rough times, to be honest with you, Coach Quinn. And Willie Simmons was able to get it right. You talk about your coach, Billy Joe was able to do it. Coach Gaither was able to do it as well, Coach. It seems like these programs, as much as we want to say it may be FAMU's birthright to have a good program, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, FAMU hasn't had a great football team unless they've had a great coach. So
that's absolutely right. Like it takes great leadership to have a great program. There's no question about it, right? The leadership, the program reflects its leadership, and that as simple as that. Like if the leadership ain't where it needs to be, then your program is going to reflect that. If you're a leader and you're not accountable and you're not holding guys accountable, you're going to see that each and every Saturday that you go out there and play football. They're going to be undisciplined. They're not going to do the things that they need to do in situational football, and they're not going to do what they need to do in terms of academics as well. So when it comes down to it, man, great leaders understand what it takes to be champion. And every day you have to be a champion because a standard is the standard. And once you set your standards for your program, that's what creates your culture, right? And making sure that these student athletes understand what it is that's going to make them successful, versus what is not going to help them be successful, I think is more important, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're loving them more than you're tearing them down, because at times you're going to have to tear them down to build them back up. Because that's just what life is all about, right? We sometimes we do things that sort of kind of put ourselves in different situations, and then there's consequences for it, right? But at the end of the day, you got to put your arm around them, because when it's all said and done, they don't care how much you care. They ain't gonna do nothing for you until they know how much you care about them, right? And you got, and that second L and all in is love, man. You got to show these kids that you love them. And how do you show these kids that you love them, right? I said it in my press conference, man. We don't spell love LOVE around here. We spell love TIME, because we got to spend time with them to help them understand that they can trust us. We're going to put them in the best situation that we possibly can to make them successful people in our program. Because I wholeheartedly believe, man, if you build great young men, you're going to build great football players at the same time, because the better young man, the better person that they are, the better football players that they can be. And as simple as that. And it starts, with discipline. It starts in the classroom, because if you're doing those two things, you're a disciplined person, you're responsible and accountable, and you're taking care of your academics, then I definitely don't have anything to worry about on the football field, because I know you're going to handle your business with that. But leadership has a lot to do with the success of any program. And that's not just with the head coach, right? That's also depending on the people that you're putting around you as the head coach, that are going to be talking to your players and leading your players every day. Because as the head coach, quite honestly, over these last 2 months, my assistant coaches have had more interaction with the players than I have, because I've been out trying to fundraise. I've been out doing different things for the program. But at the end of the day, to know that I have coaches that I can trust, that are going to make sure that we're speaking the same language to our players, and making sure they know the standards, and holding our players to the standards when I'm not around, is of utmost importance. So for me, man, it's not just FAMU. It's any football program that you look at in and around the country. If you got great leadership, a lot of times it leads to championships. And you're talking about the Tremaine Jacksons. You're talking about the Chennis Berries. Those are my dudes, man. And I talk to them all the time about how they do things and why they do things, because at the end of the day, this is a copycat league, right? You want to be successful, you better be trying to do something that successful coaches are doing. I talked to Chennis when we were at the Legacy Bowl, man. When Chennis beat my ass down at Benedict, and I was at Albany State, I wanted to know what he was doing, because I thought I was doing something right? Until I went in that game and he gave us one, right? So after that, I had to figure out, okay, boom, I'm gonna study Coach Chennis Berry and figure out what he does with his program. Obviously, I'm not gonna take every idea, because every idea that he does doesn't work for everybody. But there's some things that I know that he does that makes his program successful, and I want to know what it is, right? So, as a leader, man, you got to watch and figure out what other leaders are doing, and try to figure out how you can implement some of those things to your program to help your program be successful as well. But it all starts with the leadership.
One thing I want to say, Coach, right quick is, I know people are saying they want to talk, let's talk football. But I just want to add this, Coach. My interest in always is the man in charge of the program, because I believe that's a direct reflection of how the football is going to look at the end of the day. The reason why Prairie View, Jackson State, and you mentioned South Carolina State, the reason why those programs are what they are is because of the men who are in charge of those programs. You have to get to know who those men are to set expectations for what the program will look like, Coach. And I appreciate you being candid about your philosophy as far as a leader, because I think that's a snapshot of what FAMU football will look like in the upcoming season. And from listening to you, you sound a lot like Coach Jackson at Prairie View and what his mentality was coming in. Right. But this is my last question. I'm gonna let Steve have it. What is a FAMU football player gonna look like under Quinn Gray? I'm talking about the player. What is he gonna look like? What is his attributes gonna be? What he's gonna put on the field?
You're gonna be smart, fast, and physical, man. You got to be smart to play this game of football. You got to be fast in everything that you do, and then you got to be physical, man. You got to be violent. This game is a violent game, right? You got to have violent strain to finish everything that we do, right? And then when it comes down to it, we're going to be a team that wins situational football, because football games are nothing but a bunch of situations, right? So we got to be smart in terms of the way that we approach these situations each and every week as a coaching staff. Third downs, right? Green zone, red zone, end of the game situation, 2-minute situation. The game of football is filled with nothing but situations, and we got to make sure our players understand how to react in different situations. And that's what we've started our spring ball with. We are already, obviously for us, we're already working on third downs. And it's only week practice 3, right? So we got to help them understand how important these situations are, because we're going to put the emphasis on what it is that we need them to understand and work on the most. So smart, fast, and physical is what people are going to say that this football team reflects. And that's the perception that not only is going to be the perception, but when you come out of a game playing a FAMU football team, your thing is going to be, well, damn, that was a smart, fast, and physical football team, because that's what we're going to put on display each and every week.
So, Coach, I'm going to bring it back to the old school. Coach, it sounds like you're saying mobile, agile, and hostile.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like, Coach, in the version 2.0.
Right.
Now, when you said fast, physical, fast, so Coach, we're going to have to, as they say, take the old to the new. We're going to put that through line right there.
Right.
So see, Rocky, that's there. He talk about that venom nation, and he talk about venom inside his DNA. Coach, I want to talk about one of the things that you talked about and one of the bullet points. Coach, I know when you brought on, I think one of the most important things, and I think you had this conversation, I know some of the people in the background, of you wanted to make sure that you wanted to put together a quality staff.
Right.
And one of the things that I was fortunate enough to hear early, that President Johnson, along with AD Special Assistant Suggs, heard you and said that talk is cheap. We need money to get the best of the best.
No question.
Coach, we have a pool of $1.2 million for Coach, and I'm looking at this list. And Coach, I want, because a lot of people, because you had another great addition that just got announced.
Right.
Coach, I'm going to throw out some names, but I want you to fill in some gaps. But I'm going to tell you some of the names I'm excited about. Now, Coach, you're going to know, because you know the whole staff.
Mm-hmm.
But Coach, with that $1.2 million, I know you were smart. And you're the type of person I know you don't lose or waste no money.
I ain't
But
gonna
Coach, you got Ryan Lewis.
Right.
Sam Madison.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Rowe.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, I mean, you got Toronto Morgan, Coach Cash, Coach Warman, Ron Dugas came across the track. Coach, those are just some of the names that people are saying. Coach, talk about these people and what you're talking about that's going to institute and what kind of coaches. And, you know, maybe if you could just talk, because a lot of people don't know some of these coaches, you know, they heard the name, but if you can kind of go just some through your staff and give, you know, some bullet points of what we should be excited about, you know, your OC, your DC, Sam Madison, which I think is great. And Coach, I just want to say one thing. There was an old, and you know this because you're from South Florida, Hal Snellenberger had a saying, the state of Miami, where you used to go from Palm Beach. Now I'm looking at all y'all background, Coach. It looks like you trying to go from 75, I-10 East, I-10 West, down to I-95. So we try to have a state of FAMU from Atlanta all the way down to Miami. That's what we try to do, Coach.
Listen, what I know is when I was here, I know what helped us win championships. It was the I-75 corridor from Atlanta all the way down. And for me, to understand that that's some of the best quality football that has played, you know, every college in America comes down that I-75 corridor from Atlanta all the way down to South Florida. And that's, and being that we're in South Florida, I mean, not South Florida, but being that we're in the state of Florida gives us such an advantage, man, when it comes down to it, because a lot of these kids, especially the kids in South Florida,
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV.